Hey guys, it's Al. I've been gone for so long, but I am back. I just wanted to touch base with you guys. I know that I've been neglecting my two channels, Al Altruistic Channels Arabalo and Altruistic Channels for about 9 months technically, but it was for a good reason, and so I just wanted to let you guys know what that was all about. I just completed a very long cycle that has taken probably a lot of lifetimes to complete. And so I wanted to just share with you a little bit of what had been happening so that you guys knew why I was gone for so long and why I'm coming back now. So essentially, what happened is that right before this whole COVID thing happened, around 2017, I was sent into the Dark Night of the Soul journey. As many of you remember from the books, it started with somebody pulling the trigger of the gun into the back of my head, which is kind of appropriate considering what's going on in the world, especially in America. Which I'm not going to get into that because everybody has the right to their own opinions and everybody's going to act whatever way they want to act. But I'll just say this: you really don't want to go to jail right now with COVID. So it might not be the wisest thing in the world to go shoot up people or do stupid shit because it's not really practical. But I'm not going to tell you what to do. Y'all, you do you. Um, but the point is that before all of that went down, I literally was almost executed. That's what it felt like, and I survived it. And so it sent me into a dark night's journey, and then that sent me into the awakening process, and then I ended up in the initiations, and then through the initiations, I got to the point where I conquered everything and had started to change everything the right way, except for two things. One, I still had a really big fear of being left alone to die, and especially if like homeless. And then I had a negative mindset that I could not shake. I could not just so much had happened to me in this lifetime. I just had always felt like forsaken. And so the divine decided that this was it because we were getting to the crunch time right before COVID happened. Those of us who were going to ascend and do what we need to do now, leading forward, had to be at a certain point. And so I was at that point, but I wasn't there mentally. And so where we're going, you can't. Those of us who are in a position cannot take that negative mindset with us because then we manifest it with the energy that we're carrying. And so I needed to shake it. And so how did he do it? He made me leave my job in New Orleans as a bartender when COVID shut down. And instead of trying to find another job, he goes, no, you're going to go homeless. You're going to move to Los Angeles where you don't know anybody with no money, no resources, nothing, and you're going to make it. And you're going to trust your intuition, and you're going to listen to me. And I got you. I got your back. Now go. I was like, fuck that. I'm not fucking doing that. You must be fucking high, dude. I'm not doing that. And so, of course, banter back and forth, and she always gets her way, right? And so I ended up literally on a bus. I didn't even get to fucking fly a plane. I'm on God's payroll, which is nice. I get to eat, and I'm taken care of now, but it's. So got a plane. Instead, I took Greyhound, and so that was a complication because this one guy was like super high on, I forgot what it was, but he was like literally air shooting everybody, like acting like he wanted to kill everybody, and he was like literally psychotic. Plus the whatever mule that he was serving, whatever drug he was carrying, and all that stuff. And so that was an issue. And so I had to like trust my instincts, and there was an issue with me and the driver. Oh, it was a big thing, right? So from the get go, good times. But what was interesting is that as I arrived to LA, I didn't know anybody anymore. And so I literally walked into LA with like Prada shoes and like a really cute shirt because I'm gay, and like a really cute tote bag with my clothes in it, and then my laptop. And I was gonna go live on fucking Skid Row. I don't know what I was thinking, but anyway, I have street smarts, but not. I mean, like I can throw down like with the best of them. I grew up in New Orleans. I'm not worried about the physical part, but it was the mental part that I was just. I don't think I was ready. Anyway, so I did. I showed up and I ended up on Skid Row. And 2 weeks later, I ended up quarantined, and then I got COVID, and then I was gonna die alone, homeless, which was my greatest fear. By the way, I should note that this was also during Saturn's return. So I not only got all of that before, but I also this was Saturn's return. And so all this was playing out, and I had nobody to rely on really, and I was just kind of I was facing it all, and I was doing it well. I was doing well at it because what did not show up with me the moment I stepped foot into Los Angeles was that negative mindset. Don't get me wrong, I'd have my moments where I was like, I cannot do this, but that was just a reaction to like being in that situation. But I started to volunteer as soon as I got into the shelter, and then I started to become a valuable member of that group, right? Because I figured if they were going to house me and feed me, then the least I could do is put in my exchange. And so, but after that, I would work like maybe I used to clean the toilets of the homeless, right? Hey, Jesus used to clean feet. I can fucking do toilets. Like I'm not better than nobody else. And so it was humbling, but I was already humble to begin with. So for me, it was just normal, right? And so then afterwards, at around 1 o'clock after lunch, I would go to the beach when all y'all were, shut down. Everybody was like terrified. Oh my God, quarantine! Everybody shut everything down. I was like, nothing, right? Like didn't bother me at all. And so, but just so you guys know, this is why I think it's kind of amusing that people don't understand that we have already moved into the new earth from the old earth paradigm. When you guys were asleep, where you know what Jesus said, don't ever fall asleep because he'll come like the thief in the night. You better be ready and be prepared for him. Well, that's what happened when everybody was shut into their homes because just so you know, the post office was still running, the buses were still running, I was still going out, we were still going out, the city officials were still going out, everybody was still operating except y'all. And the beaches were still, you couldn't go in the water cleaning the water. You see what I'm saying? So everything was being cleaned and prettied up for the new earth, for this shift. So no one can say that they didn't know it was coming. It literally played out while you all were asleep. And so I was always very aware of that. So what the divine wanted me to do is to choose my words carefully. And so instead of coming on YouTube, I literally was told not to, that no audio, and that I was going to go ahead and use my powers into writing. And so what I did is I documented what was going on in the process while everybody was going through this fear-induced panic over a pandemic, right? Because when it first set in, everybody was a little worried, naturally. But at some point, when you start to look at the patterns, and you're awake, and you kind of go, "Well, that doesn't make sense to me." But neither here nor there. Everybody's going to play their parts the way that they're intended to play it this lifetime, right? So anyway, the point is, I started to write an article series over on LinkedIn while I was gone, and that was called. It started with the Al Is series, so like Alice in Wonderland, but it's AL-IS, Al Is, and so that was the process through, and then through the Looking Glass, and then finally, as in a very empowering moment, I decided to do a Buck Queen's crowning, like as in butt, like the word that negates anything that comes before it, and queen because I'm a queen, and it was a great moment for me to just speak on politics and on spirituality, but from the point of view from those who are most affected, and those of you in this near future that are now going to have to go this route that I went through because of the conditions with the economy, because of the actions of the political leadership, because of the dismantling and all that stuff. A lot of people are going to be awakened by going into the dark night of the soul. So part of my journey was to literally do a dry run with the divine, and I'll put it to you this way: it was so dry, it was so exactly right, and so divinely timing that I remember that I would be on the bus when you weren't supposed to be, but I was on the bus anyway, and I would be going somewhere, and all of a sudden the divine would say, "Get off." And I would get off the bus, and sure enough, I'd be right in the middle of a protest. So that's why you have all the videos of me protesting and stuff like that, because the divine was very much in wanting the eyes that he could see through, I guess, or she could see through, and what was going on. And so it was a very, very rewarding experience. But what didn't show up with me was the negative mindset. So instead of me like worried about what could happen, all this, I was actually enjoying myself. And the more ridiculous the masters got with the tests, like the power would go out for 2 days, or something would happen, and I had no money, and like nothing. And I would kind of giggle about it, and I'd just get through it. And what it did is it raised my frequency higher and higher and higher until I realized that the part of the process is when you finish your journey, the goal is one of many to have overcome your fears once and for all, so that you can then lead people, because you become able to see all things all the time and understand that there's multiple truths always going on at the same time. And so when you can get a better perspective, you get a better lay of the land, and then you can strategize and help people out better. So it's that kind of thing. Also, people can't use anything against me because I'm an open book. It was part of the deal. And so as I made my journey, one of the things I noticed is that the frequency that I carry, the pitch, the people that are doing these journeys, the power that they pull forth is so strong that it can alleviate 10 to 20 people around them just by being in their vicinity. Like if there's a riot and someone like me walks into the middle of the riot, well, it should start to dissipate if there's at least two or three of those type of people there, because it's the energy, it's the frequency, it's a piece, it's something that you carry like a gravitational pull, and so people respond energetically to that frequency. And so, but it takes the one thing that most of us don't have a really good skill set at, which is to let go of the negativity. With so much bullshit going on in the world, and you start to buy it until you realize what the purpose of life is. And so that was part of the journey. And so I wrote the series and all of that. And sure enough, right as I'm coming to the year anniversary, to the day of when I left for this journey to begin with, the place that I'm staying at, suddenly they're closing down, and now I'm going to be homeless again. What am I going to do? And instead of being all mad about it, I'm just like, all right, well, we figured it out last time. I'm sure it'll be fine. and just going with it. Hence graduation. So what also happened is I also got an epiphany about what life was all about, and I'll be talking about that in the next post. But that was very rewarding. It's school, life's school, and so I kind of got to my master's degree, and so it was a very interesting moment. And so I submitted that to LinkedIn to kind of tie that up. And now it's a completely, I have no idea exactly how everything works out. I just know it does. And it involves some of you and all this stuff. And it's just like kind of fun. But the point of the story is that I had to step away to find my voice and to understand that I don't need to be anyone else. I don't have to try anything else. So you're going to see different things on the channel now. First of all, I'm supposed to build communities. That's my main task right now. And so it'll start with an online community. So that'll be a platform with a forum. It'll be like a masters and all that stuff where you can interact with people at that level. And it's more of a communal type of thing, something that Jesus actually wanted. That Christ always wanted us to use his teachings to engage theologians and philosophers alike, right? That's the point, to connect them back to source. And so I'm going to be continuing with that work as Christ returns, one would assume. And upon that return, I will be working with that. And so that's where my attention is. But there's going to be things like you'll see. I talk about like the articles. From now on, I'm going to be, when I post an article, I'm going to also do a video of it so that it goes hand in hand. And so that'll all play out in the website. And then, endorsing and promoting people who share their spirituality on the website, stuff like that. Things that are really empowering and engaging, things that can take someone else's attention away from what they believe is happening over here and focus on something productive, right? Because no matter how cray cray the person is that's in danger of pushing the button, you can't stop the button. So why are we focus on what you can control? And so that's what I'm going to be doing. So you're going to see that. You're going to see me actually showing you what the day in the life is of somebody like me who literally has had to like just make it up as I go, and what faith is like in that position, because that was what it was all about. It was to have the faith in the divine, like I always have had before, in this particular lifetime where I've never had anything work out, and I just knew that it would finally at some point would. And so here we are. And I mean, literally, it's the forsaken life. It's the dark night of the soul, entire life. Nothing, right, has ever worked out. And now it is. Like, now I'm just confident, happy, go lucky, and I just don't worry about it because I found that sense of me, the me that is connected to the divine universe, the me that understands that this is an academy type of environment, the me that can see clearly through the veil and see who's playing parts and who's not playing parts, which is really hard. I can tell that you guys are struggling a little bit, but it's not a place for me to tell you. It's something that you will acquire and learn through, right? And so, but the journey began by facing my fears. And so that's kind of what I wanted to come back and kind of say. I know that we as a collective are undergoing a transitional phase where most of our fears are going to have to be realized. But remember one thing, you are a soul living in a temporary body. So that means that this is a simulation, if you want to think of it in terms of who's really in control, your soul. Also, you've died before. Not that we're going to die now, but I'm saying you've died before. So the fear of death is an illusion, right? You may want more time, but that shouldn't put a fear of death. If anything, you know that you stay conscious. All of us have died at some point, and we remember being conscious. It's just that we don't have that spark of life in us anymore where we're physical. There's not that density. We're not attached by karma to the world. And so understand that nothing that is playing out right now is as dramatic as they're making it sound. It just sounds that way because people are not ascending properly. Their frequency isn't matching what the Earth's frequency is, and as we ascend upwards, everyone on board the ship needs to be at the same level of the ship. If it doesn't, the body freaks out and things happen. And so fevers, all of that stuff. Remember that COVID is a man-made disease. This was something that we created as a counter to bioterrorism. So don't blame the divine. Like, we can't blame the divine or God, Allah, whoever you believe in, for something that we created. If anything, we got our hands caught in the cookie jars. And so understanding that process and understanding that there are things that are really not cool, that are kind of funny, but from a different perspective. That's not being one of them. If somebody is dying, that's not fun. But what I'm saying, though, is that as you go through your journey, you will find that it is 100% detailed to who you are, what you find funny, and what you don't find funny. Because sometimes the biggest laugh I used to have is when I realized that the masters would be fucking with me purposely. Like they knew that that was my button, and they would rub right. It's like right when you go into the butthole, and you're just like, I'm gonna get that prostate. You know what I mean? Like not everybody likes that fucking feeling, and so it was that kind of thing. And so then of course, I would start laughing because I was like, you son of a, you these motherfuckers right here. And so just understand that as jovial as I am, I'm still experiencing the same world that you're in. I'm not disconnected. I just don't engage it that way anymore. It's not that I'm any better or any worse. It's just I'm not attached to the same penalty to everything as you are. To me, if I die, and I know that my consciousness will go on, and if anything, I'll just, next time I wake up, I'll be in another body as a kid and start all over again. Okay. And you see what I'm saying? So I don't feel like a penalty to that. And then also, I don't feel a penalty to like standing up for myself and to helping the collective and staying behind because I should have ascended. When you ascend, technically, you can drop the body. But they asked me, and I was like, no, I'll stay. You know, it was a hard decision because it's kind of like I kind of see where this is going, and not everybody's gonna like where it's going. So it's kind of like you kind of have to stand and hold the tent, kind of thing. But I'm fascinated by what this experience is going to be when Christ and the other masters return to finish tying things up, and the new masters, how that's all going to work out. And so it's a great, fantastic, wonderful time to be around, but I wouldn't have been part of it had I not faced my fears. Look, there's no way around it. The divine masculine and the divine feminine are balancing out. Our society has not been able to keep up with that. We're still sexist, homophobic, we still lie, hypocritical, all of that stuff that doesn't really help us be conducive to a more stable environment. Something in our world would like to move and to elevate herself, Gaia. And if we are going to respect her, then we have to match her. And that's pretty much what's happening. The problem is that us knowing that in here and on a spiritual level and actually registering that as beings, I mean these motherfuckers right here are running around trying to shoot each other because there's the gun laws are going to change, and I'm just like, did you go out shooting daily? Like I don't understand. You went out what 2-3 times a year to go fucking hunt some deer? It's not even a real sport. Otherwise the deer would have the rifles too. But my point is that like I've never had a problem with you doing that. So but what is the problem with you just being required to, you know what I mean? Like they're not taking away your rights. They're just actually making sure that we stop letting people kill all our kids. It's kind of like when you see people who are just looking at you and they're just like, global warming is a cyclical thing. That's not real. You just said it's a cyclical thing. It is, that makes it real. That's cyclical. Just because it's cyclical doesn't mean that we're not making it worse. And worse off, if we're right, then you've killed the entire planet and your children and your grandchildren, and they'll know it. If we're wrong, the worst that can happen is that we have greener food and healthier options and a new economy that doesn't pollute and kill our lungs either. But you can't tell people that. So you have to go through your journey and you have to experience all of that as you go. So I'm fascinated to see how this next section goes. But just know as a collective that we're heading for some choppy waters. You know, the duck himself hasn't even left office yet, and he's still quacking. And I'm just telling you something. Sometimes when an actor is paid to do things, he will sing and dance and say thank you. You know, it just depends on how big the paycheck was. Say, $50 million, was it? The point is, you will get to a point where you start to look at things from a different perspective and understand that not everyone is a villain. Just because we don't agree with somebody eye to eye on something doesn't mean that we don't, as spiritual beings, understand that there's a balance to life. Where there's good, there's bad. Where there's karma, there's abundance. You know, there's reasons why everything comes in twos: male, female, vagina, dick, like whatever it is. There's always two. The black hole and the sun, perfect example. There's always two counterbalances to each other. So just understand that sometimes when we see things and we look at people in one light, at the end of our lives, we may just come find out that that person who we vilified for something they really did that hurt us actually did it as part of a soul contract, and that freaks you out. So just be aware that don't be too heavy on opinions and judgment right now, because you yourself will then open yourselves up to judgment from above. They're watching. Anyway, that's it for me on altruistic channels. I'm going to drop it for now. When I come back to you guys, I'm going to be reviewing the last article, the big one that I just did about the purpose of life, that I think you guys will enjoy. But until then, I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. If you're going to protest, just remember peaceful protests are always better. You don't want to go to jail right now. And, you don't want to drop the soap, and you also don't want to, get COVID. And then if you don't, and by the way, and if you're one of those people who's actually thinking with their heads and don't want the vaccine, if you go to jail, you have to get the vaccine. So don't do it. It's a bad idea. Just try to remember, the thing is with guns, if you're trying to prevent us from changing your gun laws, don't do something stupid with the gun to make us realize that we were right. Anyway, that's it for me. That's all I'm going to say on the political bullshit. Guys, everybody makes their own decisions. Everybody lives their own life. You just be good to yourself, your family, and make sure that you stay up high vibration. All right, that's it for me. Bye.